My friends, today I'm going to review this documentary called 2000 Meters to Andriivka. I remember finishing the documentary just like this, staring at the screen. It's worse than a horror movie because you know this is real. Journalist Mstislav Chernov provides a hypnotic, real-time account of the grueling battle to retake Andriivka by the Ukrainian 3rd Assault Brigade in the summer of 2023, during what was called the counteroffensive. 2000 meters to Andriivka is just terrifying, especially the first 10 minutes. We just witnessed the horrifying nature of the word attrition. Every step forward is costly. Your comrades falling left and right, and if death is silent, it's your screaming wounded friends that tear you apart. And this is where you have to make a difficult decision. Do you stay in your dugout or you go out and help them at the risk of your own life? And the soundtrack just adds to the overall tension like a beating heart. For his documentary, Chernov also made sure to use GoPro footage that had not yet been made public. Combat footage that is far from heroic. And all these exclusive videos play a pivotal part of the documentary's immersive storytelling, capturing the raw chaos of the Ukraine war. So in this video, I'll review 2000 meters to Andriivka. I'll provide context to certain parts of the documentary, and I'll also tell you about some of the historical mistakes in the storyline. Warning, there will be spoilers, so if you're interested, PBS published the entire documentary on YouTube with no ads. I highly recommend it to you. 2025 is almost over and we're falling into the same trap again. Waiting for January 1st to learn something new or learn a new skill. But here's the truth. You don't need a new year to make a new start. AI was one of the most in-demand skills of 2025, according to the World Economic Forum. Yet, most of us didn't learn it. And that puts us at risk, not just of falling behind, but of being replaced. You still have 30 days to learn AI and step into 2026 as a more skilled, smarter, and employable individual. And that in only 2 days. Let me tell you about the 2-day live AI Mastermind training by Outskill, the world's first AI-focused educational platform, happening this Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time on both days. And the timing is perfect, because they have their year-end holiday offer going on, so you can get in absolutely for free instead of the usual $395. Outskill is rated 4.9 out of 5 on Trustpilot. And the 16-hour live experience by them has been attended by more than 10 million worldwide professionals like you, across fields like marketing, finance, engineering, and data, mentored directly by AI experts from companies like Microsoft and Nvidia. The best part? This training isn't just about learning tools, it's about changing the way you work. You learn how to use AI to simplify your daily tasks, build AI agents that plan, create, and automate your workflows, design AI automations that connect to tools like Sheets, Notion, and CRMs to save hours, and gain ready-to-use AI systems for your job, business, or freelance projects. But learning those skills isn't just enough. The most important part is knowing how to monetize them. Outskill's learners have launched AI-powered businesses that even built weekly revenue models worth $4,000 to $5,000. Not just that, you'll receive bonuses worth $5,000, including a prompt Bible, a roadmap to monetize AI, and a personalized AI toolkit builder, but only if you attend both days. This Christmas, give this opportunity to someone who you think could benefit from learning AI, as it could change their career in 2026. Seats are limited. Grab yours now via the link in the description below. And don't forget to join the WhatsApp community to stay updated before the big blast. Are you ready? Let's jump right in. It's been a while I haven't done a review on a Ukraine war movie. The last one was Best in Hell in January 2023. And for me, it was interesting to compare the movie Best in Hell with the documentary 2000 Meters to Andriivka. And my conclusion is that despite its realism, Best in Hell is still a very polished version of the Ukraine war. So the main narrative arc of the documentary takes place in September 2023, in the last weeks of Ukraine's Great Summer Counteroffensive. The story follows 2 journalists, among which Mstislav Chernov. Their mission is to record the official flag raise on the village of Andriivka, a settlement for which the 3rd Assault Brigade has fought for a long time. The journalist will be escorted by a rifle squad, and one of the soldiers is provided with the flag that he must protect at all costs. To complete their mission, they have to cross this 2,000-meter long tree line to reach the village of Andriivka. Hence the name 2,000 meters to Andriivka. And it's not girl inches. As you can see on the map, it's really 2,000 meters long. Now, one thing I like about this documentary is that although they focus on the settlement of Andriivka, this could be the story of any settlement that was fought for in Ukraine. Actually, I clearly remember covering the grinding battles for the villages of Klishivka and Andriivka. First when the Russians marched in, and then when the Ukrainians counterattacked. When they cleared the entire west side of the canal in preparation of an attack against Andriivka and Kordyumivka. Problem is, it was geolocated 2 kilometers west of Andriivka. What happened is that as the Russians deployed more and more troops for the defense of the village, which they managed to recapture by the 27th of July, they neglected the left flank. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians pivoted the front and pushed further south, all the way to Andriivka. For a month, the Ukrainian 3rd Brigade Azov and the 5th Assault Brigade launched together strong attacks all along the Siversky Donetsk Canal, and managed to capture this stronghold overlooking the village of Klishivka. 2 months and a half later, not only did they kick out the Russians from Klishivka, but they also secured the village of Andriivka. So how about I give you some context and setting for the battle taking place in this documentary. Andriivka is a small settlement located 10 kilometers south of Bakhmut. That was Ukraine's starting line in early June 2023. And here we can see how the front progressed. By early July, the Siversky Donetsk Canal had been cleared up, and fighting had reached Klishivka, with the 3rd Assault Brigade leading the charge on Andriivka, while the 5th Assault Brigade handled Klishivka further to the north. Advances were measured in tens of meters per day, through minefields and constant artillery barrages. By mid-July, the Ukrainians had pushed to the edge of the 2,000-meter tree line. But August turned out to be a meat grinder. The Russian 72nd Motor Rifle Brigade dug in deep, counterattacking for every lost position. Something that the documentary did mention, how there was a lot of back and forth. Now, I don't know if it was done on purpose, but throughout the film we get a real feeling of the 1979 movie Apocalypse Now. Both films use a single geographical feature as the central road that structures the entire story. The river in Apocalypse Now and the tree line in 2,000 meters to Andriivka. There's only one direction, a forward and slow descent into the abyss. However, in this journey, the journalists will not be alone. Here you can see their guides. Call signs Freak, Fedya, and Sheva, their guardian angels. Those are the 3 main characters of the documentary as they get interviewed multiple times. Freak's mission was to bring the journalist to Fedya, the platoon leader. Fedya worked in a warehouse before the war and never saw himself as a soldier. Yet there he is as a 24-year-old sergeant. Fedya is also the one tasked with raising the Ukrainian flag on Andriivka. In the film, we see how before departing for the mission, Fedya trained the new recruits sent to his unit, mostly men 10 to 20 years older than him. One of these new recruits is 46-year-old Sheva. He's shy and a bit ashamed to be on camera. And why? Because he hasn't done anything heroic yet. He thinks he doesn't deserve to be on camera. This happens to be his first combat mission. Before that, he was in the military police. And it makes sense, between 2022 and 2023, thousands of police officers were placed into Ukraine's elite assault units. The documentary goes at length to show these simple moments in a soldier's life. Sheva discusses with the journalist what he will change about himself after the war, such as reducing his smoking habits. They talk about how rolling your own cigarettes is better because it's relaxing and prevents chain smoking. Sheva also worries for his wife at home, wondering if she will be able to take care of their grandson or if she will have access to fresh water. However, what's gut-wrenching in this film is that we're told about the individual fates of all these characters right after meeting them. Last warning for spoilers. After this interview, we're told how Sheva was injured in battle 5 months later, and that he died of his wounds in the hospital. The third character is Freak. He dropped out of university when Russia invaded Ukraine, and there he is at 22 years old as a rifle team leader. Then there's this bond between the journalist and Freak. Turns out they both studied in Kharkiv, but in rival universities. So there's a lot of banter and they joke around. Both of them are also native Russian speakers, but because of the war, they decided to transition to Ukrainian. But his original accent remains. The tragedy of Freak is that he's originally from Mirnorad, a town that was relatively far from the front back then, but that is now on the verge of falling to Russian forces. Once again, we're told that 5 months after that moment, where we see him smiling, in good spirit and full of banter, Freak would be listed as missing in action. Most certainly during the final days of the Battle of Avdiivka. The documentary made sure to show how each one of these casualties have a story. It's not like in movies where the main characters have plot armor. Actually, many people that you will see in this documentary are now gone. That's the reality of the life of being an infantryman. But the attrition is so high. And this is best exemplified in this article from Reuters from December 1st, 2025. We can read, Reuters followed the fortunes of a group of raw recruits who enlisted as part of Ukraine's drive to refresh its depleted ranks. They're all between 18 to 24 years old. Within a couple months, none of the 11 are still fighting. 4 have been wounded, 3 are missing in action, 2 deserted, 1 fell sick, and another recruit took his own life. Yeah, it's just depressing. As the journalists advance through the shattered tree line, the story is interrupted by flashbacks to show the heavy price the 3rd Assault Brigade had to pay for every meter of it. As a matter of fact, we get an exclusive view of the headquarters, where every 50-meter section of the tree line was marked with a letter and a number. Each section of that forest has a story to tell. These flashbacks are told through the eyes of GoPro footage, and they play a pivotal role in Chernov's narrative. We get fully immersed. You're not watching war, you're living it with these men. All the emotions they go through are yours as well. There are 5 main combat sequences in 2,000 meters to Andriivka. There is the one in the introduction, the APC attack, storming the trench, the last 300 meters, and the storming of Andriivka. Each one depicts a specific part of the battle, all with their own tactical characteristics. In the introduction, you'd think they would show the Ukrainians heroically storming Russian positions. But it's actually the total opposite. They're sitting ducks and they get absolutely wrecked. Chernov made sure to select the type of GoPro footage you cannot find on Reddit or Twitter. And throughout these combat sequences, the music is just nerve-wracking. The soundtrack was done by Hildur Guanadotir, the one who did the score for Chernobyl and the Joker. She created an impressive, visceral sense of dread and slow-motion catastrophe of the battle taking place. There's a clear difference between the GoPro footage made public by the 3rd Assault Brigade on Telegram, where they always show the relentless forward push of the Ukrainian troops, and the one Chernov selected for his documentary. Footage that actually shows the other side of the medal, the videos that show setbacks and all the casualties. So there you have a rifle squad holding dugouts. The soldiers are joking with one another. There's nothing else to do. They're isolated somewhere along that tree line. But then comes an FPV drone strike, which, as a reminder, were relatively new at that point of the war. The drone dives and there's a big explosion. The GoPro wearer Piro then advances through this shattered forest, turned into ash. Under constant mortar fire, there's smoke and fire everywhere. It looks like another planet. There he discovers 2 of his comrades, Farah and Morty, buried in the trench. He shakes them, begs them to get up, only to realize in total disbelief that they're KIA. Then the screen fades to black, as in, welcome to hell. And that's the thing with this documentary. They made sure for you to see everything. All the scenes and emotions of soldiers losing their comrades. But then the squad is ordered to evacuate. They're told 5 minutes, but mortar shells keep getting closer. Finally, a Dodge YPR 765 APC finally arrives to rotate them out. This is one of the 350 units the Netherlands delivered to Ukraine. 7 fresh soldiers disembark with ammo and supplies, and GoPro guy rushes in. There are only 2 inside and the driver of the APC is ready to drive off. And they're waiting and waiting for the others to arrive. Meanwhile, the APC is now a sitting duck, and the driver knows this. Eventually, we have a sigh of relief as all the soldiers of the squad make it into the APC. But we barely have time to celebrate, because then we hear the sound that nobody wants to hear. Spinning wheels, a struggling motor, and the driver yelling "Bliat!" The armored vehicle meant to bring them back to the rear is stuck in the mud. And this while mortars are raining down. Imagine the thoughts of all these soldiers. They're all trapped. This had to happen to them. Then the team leader has to make a difficult decision. They clearly can't stay there, so he tells everyone they will return on foot. But as they exit, new shells hit the ground with abruptive, concussive blasts. Someone yells, Trista! Borz's arms and legs are shattered by shrapnel. He's immobilized. The team leader comes back and says the words nobody wants to hear. Oh, you're wounded too? What? Turns out 2 more have been wounded as well. This is hell. Casualties keep rising. With thunder in the distance, and incoming mortar rounds merge to one endless roar. And when you think that things cannot get worse than that, GoPro guy Piro and the team leader expose themselves while dragging Bors to safety. And that's when another shell explodes nearby. This time, it's Piro. He collapses both physically and mentally, his leg shattered with shrapnel. By that point, only 3 men in the squad are still standing. Within minutes, a 9-man rifle squad was reduced to 3 after losing 2 KIA and 4 wounded. Over 65% casualties without even seeing the enemy. The team leader drags Piro into a foxhole, promising to return. And then the screen cuts. This is only the introduction. In that last frame, you can really get the sense of loneliness that Piro must have felt, completely abandoned and at the mercy of the elements. Piro did make it out, but you can imagine that many soldiers in his position didn't. 18 minutes into the documentary, we see the journalist entering an APC. They're heading towards the tree line. And that's when, once again, we're transported back in time. This time from the perspective of an assault team that has to disembark from an armored vehicle right into the enemy tree line. And let me tell you, the clicking sound of the ramp is nerve-wracking. It's literally like a roller coaster. Everybody inside knows the moment that ramp hits the ground, all hell will be unleashed. Let me tell you, they have reasons to worry. I remember seeing videos like that from that sector where Russian recon drones lurked and waited for the Ukrainian vehicles to disembark all the infantrymen to call in an artillery strike. In the previous combat footage, we saw how the life expectancy of a rifle squad could be only a few minutes, while during an assault, it could be only a few seconds. The moment the ramp opens, it's total chaos. It's like the scene from Saving Private Ryan. The front guy managed to exit the vehicle, but all the others are pinned down, enemy fire is too dense. Within seconds, a first soldier is wounded. Then something explodes inside. The APC is then forced to drive off, abandoning their buddy. Imagine you're that guy. Once again, the feeling of loneliness, you're being abandoned, and now you face a 1v6. It's horrible. We don't know when, but moments later the APC is damaged and everybody then jumps out of the vehicle, crawling away. GoPro guy asks where's Greg. Greg is KIA. They don't even have time to mourn because they have to get cover. The APC is about to blow up. Within 60 seconds, out of 7 men in that assault detachment, they already suffered 1 missing, 1 KIA, and 2 wounded. Oh yeah, there's something else I wanted to show you. This soldier has a British flag, yet he's Ukrainian. And this is an important reminder. It's not because you see US or British arm patches that this means they're necessarily foreign volunteers. Russian Telegram channels love frames like that to show that they're in fact fighting all of NATO. But reality is a bit different. In a complete apocalyptic scene, a YPR 765 comes roaring from the right side. They have to get away before everything explodes, and that APC is their way out. Then the documentary does something very interesting. It goes from the perspective of one GoPro to another. We see a guy running in the distance, and then we see his perspective of the event. He desperately asks the driver if there's room for them. Negative, they're full. And he drives off. They have to take cover somewhere else. But where? And then they do something that tactically they shouldn't do, but because of anxiety they all get bunched up together in the tiniest of shell craters. And once again, because of the stress, GoPro guy struggles to put the tourniquet on his friend. There he sees his wounded friend looking at him, and you have to tell him everything is going to be okay. But deep down, you're not so sure of it. The rifle team is pinned down under enemy fire, and then it cuts. Actually, I don't know what happened to them. They probably made it out. And the worst is that everything you just saw would be impossible today with the domination of drones. This squad that is pinned down would be annihilated within a couple seconds. Now you know me, for fun I tried to geolocate where this took place. Here we see the tree line, but on the left side of the screen we see a height difference. And this is the clue we needed, because on the map this is exactly this area, this rectangle that forms some sort of elevated terrain. It must have taken place around July 24th, 2023. The rifle squad must have been pinned down somewhere in the middle here. And you know what? This wreck could even be the armored vehicle they abandoned. I think we can even spot their APC in this Russian drone footage. I'm pretty sure that's their APC right here, immobilized and abandoned. With that being said, 2,000 meters to Andriivka provides a very simplified tactical understanding of the situation. 13 minutes in, the documentary fires a couple rounds of propaganda in our face. It calls Andriivka very strategic, and that if the Ukrainians capture it, it would cut the supplies going to Bakhmut. This is simply not true. As you can see, even if the armed forces of Ukraine take control of Andriivka, it doesn't come close to cutting off supply lines going into Bakhmut. You don't have to be a military expert to see that the Russian army would still have numerous supply lines fully open. I understand why Chernov used this narrative arc in his documentary, to push a sense of purpose and heroism, making the film more compelling for audiences, for them to understand that the sacrifice of these Ukrainian soldiers was worthy. But the tragic reality is that Andriivka was not really important. Actually, even this is a euphemism. It was actually pointless, a useless objective. And I think everyone in the 3rd Assault Brigade was aware of it. We even have this scene where soldiers said June, July, August, one village in 3 months, clearly questioning if this hamlet was worth all their sacrifices. But there's another tactical simplification in the documentary. In reality, both Russian and Ukrainian forces concentrated their efforts on the village of Klishivka. Andriivka was just a secondary objective meant to cover the right flank of the Ukrainian progression. And even then, Ukrainian assault detachments advanced on Andriivka from multiple directions. Yes, there was the 2,000 meter long tree line we see in the documentary, but there was also this one, parallel to it, 1 kilometer to the right, which is not even mentioned. On Lost Armor, we can observe how the 3rd Assault Brigade actually lost more vehicles on that tree line than on the 2,000 meter depicted in the film. But that's not all, there was also this axis of attack starting south of Klishivka, along another tree line. And then by early September, Ukrainian assault detachments also pushed from this tree line in the north and this one in the south. And the other thing that is mentioned in the documentary is how the Russians benefit from a numerical advantage. But in reality, it was the other way around. It was the combined work of multiple Ukrainian brigades that allowed them to finally capture Andriivka. And the worst part is that all these Ukrainian formations were considered to be elite, and yet they struggled against a low-tier Russian motor rifle brigade. The next combat sequence featured in the documentary is a video that I remember watching years ago. It's from the first week of September, specifically from the 3rd Assault Company of the 2nd Battalion of the 3rd Assault Brigade. And you know what? Most of the footage from that tree line comes from the 2nd Battalion specifically. This is another clue that indicates how the other battalions of the brigade attacked from other directions. So here we see a 5-6 man rifle team prone on the ground. Every leap forward is very quick, so we just get a glimpse of shadows before they jump to the ground. GoPro seems to be the team leader, and the fighting makes him very exhilarated. And this is an emotion completely different from the one we witnessed in the first 2 combat sequences. If you've read Storm of Steel by Ernst Junger, this is approximately what it is. GoPro guy sees an enemy and tells everyone to F him up, as if it's a game, as if they're all in team deathmatch in Call of Duty. He shouts orders as his men leap their way forward until they reach the enemy trench. And the weird part is how it really resembles a paintball match as well. Both from the range, the tactics used, and it's a 5v5. The key part of the sequence is how 3 Russian soldiers are trapped inside their trench network and try to negotiate their surrender. Clearly this is possible because they all speak the same language. Now there's no time to waste, because on the radio we hear the commanders telling the assault squad to keep moving before enemy reinforcements arrive. They're telling them to hurry up. Once again, what do you do in this type of situation? And the truth is that the officers in the HQ speak of experience. I saw many videos from the Klishivka and Andriivka sector, where Russian units end up counterattacking, sometimes with BMPs and tanks firing at point blank, and undoing all the Ukrainian gains of the past days, if not the past weeks. So yes, this assault detachment has to get moving, and as a result, the tension is mounting. One of the Russians exits with his hands up further down the trench, and at the same time, another one sneaks up from behind. GoPro guy sees this. We see the Russian just throw the grenade, get shot. Within the split second everything is happening, GoPro guy warns his friend, and this allows him to dodge the blast of the grenade. To which he says, "Thank you," and yeah, this is one of the oldest tricks in the book. The Japanese would pull these all the time. These negotiations lasted for a never-ending 3 minutes until the last Russian soldier in there exits and surrenders. Let's be honest, other units would have not been that patient with these guys. But perhaps this is the type of footage that even Chernov would not be ready to show. The next combat sequence is the last stretch to the settlement of Andriivka. We see one of the main characters, Fedya, filmed by callsign Courier. Once again, we see a 5 to 6 man assault team, and they're ordered forward. As you can see, these assault elements are much smaller than the regular US Army squad, for example. And it's not because of the lack of manpower, because at that time Ukraine still had plenty of troops. So that's something that is worth to be explored. Why the Ukrainians of the 3rd Assault Brigade, Azov, preferred to launch these attacks with 5 to 6 men. This time what's interesting is that we get the perspective from the headquarters as the soldiers on the ground push through the trees. So we get both the perspective from the ground and from above, literally as if it was a video game. And let me tell you that for some people, it must have been like a game. Using recon drones, the staff officers guide the assault team, warning them of enemy forces ahead. We can see it in the rise, it's literally like a football match. I mean, just look at the reaction of the HQ when the FPV drone strikes the enemy position. They would celebrate a goal the same way. And this is something else worth to study. What's the purpose of sergeants and NCOs today, when all their actions can be micromanaged? From this drone footage, we can also know exactly where this took place. Here's the village, and here's the tree line. But you can also see there's some trees on the right. This means this must have taken place somewhere here, 500 meters from the village. At the end of the firefight, Fedya gets shrapnel in the glutes. And we learn that almost everyone in the squad is wounded, and because of that, they have to get evacuated. There goes another rifle team. That's when we learned that his friend and second in command, Gagarin, took over. Because the Ukrainians pronounce G's as H's, they actually say Haharin. And what's weird is that we see him vlog, be all smiling and say this is the best job in the world, probably as a reference to the movie Fury. However, progression in the force is difficult. They're pinned down. Gagarin yells to motivate the troops. He stands up and fiercely charges towards the enemy. Then we get a black screen. Moments later, Kobzar, so GoPro guy, sees Gagarin's motionless body just a couple meters away. He yells 300, meaning wounded, but as he crawls forward, he can only see that Gagarin has been KIA. Meanwhile, HQ orders the assault detachment to keep pushing forward. They say there are only 2 Russians 20 meters in front of them, one of whom is wounded. Kobzar, whose friend just died. Using some desperate energy, he stands up, runs forwards, and unloads his firearm. And from what we understand, they managed to capture the enemy position. In the end, we see Fedya attend the funeral of Gagarin, and 5 months later, the one of Kobzar, the one that held Gagarin's hand as he fell. There's this comment I found that said, "I studied with Gagarin in university. We lived in the same dorm and hung out several times. We weren't close friends, but God, he was a great guy. Kind, friendly, hardworking, and always tried to do his best. His name is Vadim." Something to remember beyond call signs. There are always names and life stories. According to UALosses.org, the 3rd Assault Brigade lost 134 confirmed KIA between June 1st and September 30th, 2023. And to be honest, probably just as many missing in action. Although according to the brigade, they did manage to retrieve all the bodies of their fallen comrades. But even then, we can count hundreds more of wounded. The entire 3rd Assault Brigade, one of Ukraine's most elite units, melted down for what? Some potato fields, a shattered tree line, and a hamlet that is now in complete ruins. with zero strategic significance whatsoever. And the worst is that the fighters that survived this battle ended up falling 5 months later during the Battle of Avdiivka, like Freak, Sheva, and Kobzar. The final act of the documentary depicts Ukrainian forces battling their way into the ruins of Andriivka. The air thick with dust, smoke, and collapsing walls on all sides. The men of the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Assault Brigade mopped up one home after another, making sure all basements were cleared. We even have this unique close quarters encounter where we see Russian soldiers running right in front of the nose of this Ukrainian squad. At the end of the sequence, we see that they did manage to capture a Russian soldier. And we clearly see how Chernov wanted to put the spotlight on how Ukrainian troops always did their best to capture enemy soldiers. It was also very important for the HQ. Prisoners of war help Ukraine get back its own prisoners of war, and these captured soldiers can also reveal very important information on the situation of the Russian armed forces. On the 15th of September, Andriivka was officially liberated. Now was time to record the flag raise. And it's on the 16th of September that the journalist walked along this 2,000-meter long tree line that took 3 months to take and cost countless lives. At the end of the documentary, Fedya is sitting in some basement. He takes out the yellow and blue flag and quickly builds a makeshift flagpole. The journalist records him as he runs outside and places it on one of the last remaining rooftops of the hamlet. And 2 days later, Klishivka was also back in Ukrainian hands. On the 18th of September, the 3rd Assault Brigade posted the official pictures of Fedya raising the Ukrainian flag captured by Mstislav Chernov. What's sad is that nobody really talked about it online. It's the first time I see these pictures. They have been published, but it's the first time I see them. There's nothing about it on Reddit or Twitter. No news articles about it. Can you imagine fighting so hard for a position in the complete indifference of the world? So in that sense, I'm happy that Chernov made Fedya famous. He fully deserves it. On Telegram, the 3rd Assault Brigade also declared the 72nd Brigade of the Russian army completely broken as a result of a rapid operation. Rapid. The Russian garrison of Andriivka was surrounded, cut off from the main forces, and destroyed. In 2 days, the 3rd Assault Brigade eliminated the chief of the brigade intelligence, 3 battalion commanders, and almost all the infantry of the 72nd Brigade, together with officers. No. Rapid, as in 3 months. And you know what? Even 3 years ago, I thought this statement was very sus. The Ukrainians claim to have destroyed the entire 72nd Motor Rifle Brigade in Andriivka. But how is this possible? How can we actually take them seriously when we look at the actual size of the village? How can you hide 2,000 soldiers there? Clearly, this story is pure BS. Turns out I was right to doubt this very propaganda statement. And the worst is that NATO bots actually thought an entire Russian brigade was encircled in Andriivka. You saw how the village looks like, it's just impossible. But they just swallow all the propaganda without even thinking. Did the Russian 72nd Brigade suffer heavy casualties? Probably yes, but so did the Ukrainian assault formations. So this is a reminder to take these official statements with a handful of salt. In the end, in October 2024, Andriivka was retaken by Russian forces, and the hamlet is now located 10 kilometers away from the contact line. That's all I have for you today. Remember to check out Outskill. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of my analysis. If you're new to this channel, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to support my work, make sure to check out my Patreon or PayPal. The links are in the description below.